Welcome everybody back to Based on Characters. This is Ray. Some call me Ray Goodfella, and I have something special. I'm getting ready to say something very inappropriate. On how I'm gonna say got two people here on this particular thing, and we're gonna get into some definitely some interesting topics. This is a special edition, so I want you all to definitely hit the like button, share this to all your friends, family. We're gonna go about 40 minutes, and I'm gonna take my time with this here because I got two special people in here and they're going to introduce themselves, and then I'm going to go right into some questions here. So, ladies first.
Well, hello. My name is Monique Gooch. It's my writer's name. I'm the author of Preyed Upon, the untold story of Jedediah Jackson. It's a novel. You can catch it anywhere on Amazon. You can also find it at Barnes Noble. Actually, if you follow me, this is, if you guys can see it, my lovely bookshelf here that my husband made for me. So
All
it's
right.
books,
Nice.
Um,
Yeah.
so there's Preyed Upon, there's You Better Not Pout. That is a Christmas book. It's a short story. Just Kylie, that's also a short story. It's about a transgender girl who gets her first kiss. Dance in December. It's also a short story. Um, it's a Christmas story about like I said, a little girl who gets her first kiss as well, more for the children. Um, and then there is another short story near and dear to my heart. It's called I Love You More. I wrote that for my grandmother's, one who passed away from Alzheimer's. And the other one, just before she passed away, she lived in the nursing home. And it was her one wish to get out of the nursing home, but she did not. She actually passed away in the nursing home and COVID came. But those are some of my works. Also a professional editor, full time. I also do that on the side as well. So if anyone needs books edit, please hit me up. My website is www.author-moniquegooch.com. So I'm available for that as well. I've edited some of Serge's books and Ray's books, and Ray's play that he has done, which he won an award for, but he does not like to talk about, but I'm going to brag on him.
Oh yeah.
So I've worked with both of these gentlemen, and that is me. And I'll pass the torch along to Serge.
All right. I'll try not to burn this place down. So
Oh, he
I
gonna
am.
burn this mug down. So yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, this mug. Oh my goodness. Our parents, the church people might be watching this. Hopefully not. Trigger warning. So okay.
Nobody's watching. Nobody's watching.
Immediately, no, but they will. All
All
right.
right.
My government name is Sergio Raymond Rodriguez, born
All right.
1984 in Gary, Indiana. I will say this much whenever I'm referring to something directly that's more about my life. I'll just do the footnotes and say, see the previous podcast that I was on with Renard, because that lays it all out there. Because it's long, it's complicated, it's dark, a lot of stuff. So I'll just leave it at that. Yes, I have. I have actually edited for Monique also. I was one of the many editors on Preyed Upon. And let's see. I'm trying to think some of the other names. Well, back when it was Truthful Lies, before it was Preyed Upon.
Mm.
I beta read for almost a good chunk of Monique stuff too. And also Ron and a few other people. I've beta read a little bit more critique for Renard or Ray. I don't think I've edited anything final for you though, Renard though. So
Not yet.
no, and Monique has edited, let's see, Silverwater, especially most of the short stories in the SS anthology that I have, as well as most of Wing. I remember I have 5 books out. Monique showed the bookshelf. I'm going to have to go in the other room and show my bookshelf. Don't worry. There's not any corpses or anything or dirty underwear around, just clean underwear. Okay. So yeah, my grandmother taught me right. So it's all dark in here anyway. Ain't no
Pick your
lights.
drawers up, Serge. Pick your drawers up. Yeah.
They ain't mine.
I,
I got Preyed Upon actually on my shelf here too.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I've got Sinew. That is for Christine Hall. I don't know if she's been on your podcast yet, Renard, but she used to run the Poetry at the Brew. I have 3 poems in here. Those are
She
very
needed
naked.
one.
Yeah, those are very naked people. See,
Oh,
I didn't do the cover.
oh
Let's
my.
see. We got Wing Cockroach on the cover, narrated by a cockroach's perspective. That is the prequel to my magnum opus. Monique's about to shiver because here comes the cockroaches. Roach
Uh, okay.
If you literally Google the word Roachkind right now, Roachkind, this is the only thing that comes up because who the hell would write about walking, talking cockroaches? This guy.
Only Serge.
My significant other, Christina Carter, designed the cover. And Serena Lucio is my pen name. So I got my government name, I got my pen name. I go by Serge because Sergio is entirely too foreign. So it's reversible. See.
Oh,
So,
Lord.
and let's see, I got 2 more books. Silverwater. Monique took the hard editing pen to this one. I'm proud of it too. This one, if you're not into cockroaches, this has no cockroaches. It's just about a guy trying to open up a special needs school for kids, based off my real life and my real disabled sister. See the previous Renard's podcast to learn more about my sister. And lastly, this is my most recent one, was early last year, Poetry at the Zoom. We mentioned Christine Hall. I used to do stand-up poetry at the Brew, and back when Christine Hall ran it in Nashville, East Nashville. And I did pretty well there. And then I moved to Arizona and we started doing Poetry at the Brew on the Zoom meetings. So I made it Poetry at the Zoom. I'm a pretty mediocre poet, if you ask me. I know some very good poets in the world. So I still love it, but I'm more of a novelist at the end of the day. Of course, I have 2 bachelor's degrees, English literature and English writing. Monique's, go ahead, throw your education out there too, Monique. You know, your PR, public relations. This is the reason why you're nicer than me, because I'm just a pure, insane writer, while you actually know how to deal with people. And I'm like, oh. So those are my
I
5
have
books.
a degree in public relations and a minor in creative writing, but I'm not
Yeah,
so much on the English as Serge is. So yeah.
it's hard being in this ivory tower, you know, mentally masturbating to our superior literary technique.
Oh,
But no,
all right.
I am from Gary, Indiana, though. So remember that. As snooty and bougie as I've become, I'm from GI back in the 80s and the 90s. So yeah, those are then also to my overall bookshelf. You could find like all of my influences. Let me see if I can do this properly.
You properly? Yeah, okay.
I don't know if you can see anything. We got everything from Moby Dick to Shakespeare's King Lear, Hamlet, Winnie the Pooh, Epileptic, Neil Gaiman's The Sandman, Batman Hush, Chris Claremont's X-Men is somewhere in there, Mankind, Mick Foley's book, Neil Gaiman's American Gods, Chuck Palahniuk's Fight Club, Survivor. So those are just some influences. They might come up, you know, because I like to keep my books along with my influences right on the same shelf, because I'm like, here are my literary parents, here are my literary children. They're right next to each other. So
I love how I showed like 3 books. This fool done showed his entire collection. So yeah.
It's people collect different things, you know. Just like, you know, my uncle, he collects felonies. So I mean, you know, different.
All right, I'm gonna collect some answers from you all. So straight into it. What's this about teachers banging students? Someone
Man.
Oh man. Okay. So before we came on, I was telling Serge, since Serge works with students with disabilities, like that is his passion, you know. There's this documentary on Netflix. It's called Tell Them You Love Me. And this woman, I don't know what year this had, I think it was like 2011 or something like that, I don't know. So she was working with this student who has cerebral palsy, and she had this facilitated communication device where it allows this student to type what he wants to say because he cannot verbally communicate. And it had gotten the family excited because they were like, yes, he's going to be able to go to school and he's going to do all these things that his older brother does. You know, he's got a degree, you know, he works. So great. Our son, who has the mind of a preschooler, like 4 years old, is going to be do all these things. Well, she fell in love with him because of his supposed love of reading books, writing, and his intellectual capacity and his wanting to live independently and everything else. And so she said that when he was at a class, like a conference, telling, that he wanted to be in love one day and hopefully have a love life and be married. She said that doesn't happen for people like me. And she thought in her head, you can have that with me. Now, mind you, this woman is already married with children.
Oh.
And one day they're on the communication device, they're talking, and she said, I do what I do because I love teaching, but I do what I do with you because I love you. And he said, I know. And then they start to
No.
kiss.
Dude, was he Han Solo? Like, I
Well,
love you. No.
I
Like,
know,
really?
I don't know. And so they have sex twice, according to the documentary. And she got put in jail, But what I can't wrap my mind around is like, who's telling the truth? Like, was he really? I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't disabled. That's not what I'm saying. Obviously, he was, because when he was interviewed and studied by doctors, they said he does have a mental capacity of a 4-year-old. I mean, what if there really was it really consent? Can someone with a disabled body consent, is what I'm asking.
All right. I will use a real life example of Christy Brown, who was portrayed by Daniel Day-Lewis in the movie My Left Foot, based on a real story. Christy Brown could literally communicate with his left foot. He was able to use it to use in later on devices and so on, and write and paint with it and so on. He was just as horny as any other man, so he was able to eventually get married, but it took many years because he was actually very infatuated by his longtime caregiver and teacher. And she, unlike the person in the documentary, you know, no, she got married to, another guy and this and that. And he was very heartbroken by it, but he did eventually get married to a woman that turns out, I think, was his another caregiver in a facility somewhere, I think. Don't quote me on that because the movie takes its liberties too, and it's been a while. So ultimately, the thing is if this is unethical, because he has every right to voice, what he wants and needs. If this is unethical, they'll have to prove that the other woman was able to exploit him somehow. Like, was she taking money from him? Was she keeping him away from the family somehow? Was she trying to keep this a massive secret? You see what I'm saying? Because at that point in time, it's just like, hey, it just evolved over many, many years, Yeah, stranger things have happened, people. But I haven't seen the documentary either, though. But that's one of the biggest things, especially when I was a group home supervisor, and I had a young man that was 19 years old. I won't be giving any names, nothing specific, because we got HIPAA going on. But he was dating a girl that was about 24 or something in Alabama, and we were out here in Arizona. And at some point in time, she started like complaining about not being able to pay her phone bill and her internet bill. And he's like, "Oh, I got some." I'm like, "No, you ain't got no money for that." I told his mother. And she's like, "Mm-mm." So yeah. So at that point in time, and there was no sex involved, or at least not in the same room. I mean, there's a reason why he had a lock on his door, and we respected that. He's a 19-year-old man. And to be fair, that was a sticky situation that could have gotten into some exploitation with him financially. But also, it's not just financially either. If somebody, wants that validation of being emotionally good person or something, girl, go to therapy at that point in time. Don't always rely on your relationship for all that validation. You should be able to get it from within in that way. And my questions would be, if this young man is able to help this woman, be more independent too. It's a mutual thing. We help each other. Or is it just, they got curious. Helen Keller did not die a virgin. I've read her biography and most of her work. Yeah,
Oh,
she was briefly engaged. Yes. And she suffered from the same things of a lot of scientists at the times. We're talking just post a few decades after World War II, in the South in Alabama, where her family was, Anne Sullivan came over there to teach, her Helen
mhm.
Keller the finger spelling. And a lot of people accused basically for lack of more proper phrasing, Anne Sullivan of just using Helen Keller like a puppet. Like, well,
Yeah.
Keller's got no autonomy or no agency. But guess what? The joke was on the really sophisticated, scientist at the time. Now, Helen never got married to the guy, and I don't think she had any other lovers like that as far as we know. But yes, it is possible, even as far as almost 100 years ago. But I'm definitely more interested in this documentary. What do you call it, Monique? It's
Tell them you love me.
Tell
And
Them You Love Me.
what I found interesting is that the mother was very babying of her son. Of course you would be, because you fed him, you have to change him, he can't speak, he can barely walk. But what I found really funny was that I have to put him on medication now because he masturbates. Woman, he got him a taste of pussy. Of course he's gonna want to masturbate. So, yeah.
I'm glad my parents didn't know about that medication. I'd still be drugged up.
He don't need no medication unless he's doing it like at a restaurant or something. Like, tell him don't do that. He don't need no pills. Like, no.
Yeah, I had a student who was 18. This was last year, and the song "Taking Care of Business," and he would masturbate in the school bathroom, and he would sing that song. And every time he'd go into the bathroom, be like, "Taking care of business." We're like, that I can't hear that song without thinking of some. Oh man, it's been ruined for me now. But yeah, I mean, I'll point out a gender discrepancy a little bit here too. Is that if this young man was a woman and the caregiver was a male, then it'd be like, okay, then it might have been a bigger deal. But instead, we're like, oh, he's a 34-year-old man. Oh, there ain't no disability involved in that. He's just going, So there is a thing, and also too, if they were, we had non-binary, transsexuality involved, homosexuality involved, and so on. It will gray this up even further. To some call me by your name kind of things. A lot of people have those stories about how they had their gender sexual orientation awakening with somebody who was older, and at that point in time, many people, my family friends have said, yeah, it was wrong because the age discrepancy, but at the same time, they're like, well, I definitely found out more about myself, so I'm not, I have to see this documentary to get a good idea of it, but thanks. Good segue, Renard. We just start out with, hey, they're over there diddling people with disabilities. It's like, supposed to be talking about literature, man.
Yeah, well, but I just figured you would like that because, you work with people with disabilities, and I immediately thought of you and your work in that area. And I was like, Serge would like this documentary. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll check it out. That's for sure. All right.
Well, I'm going to go to question 2, and I think y'all going to like this one too. And this goes back to one of the popular movies of early 2024, which is Color Purple. And obviously, we've seen the Mr. and the Seeley characters there. Obviously, it was years ago. So my question for both of you all here is, a man his age marrying a girl underage, appropriate for the time, but definitely not appropriate now. But the question is, should we show things like that in films? Because does it create a problem in a young person's mind, especially a young woman? Oh, I can marry a young man, or older man, or do you think that's something that we need to completely do away with, not even show that?
Monique, you wrote Preyed Upon, so that's a little more up there.
I think I have that book on my shelf over here. I read that book when I was 15. I think I was a sophomore in high school. And The Color Purple resonated with me for many reasons, because when my mom, this is going back to not only my mom, but my grandmother's time, when they married men, they were called suitors back then. So you had to marry young because you had to marry older so you could have a man with land and money so you could be taken care of. So I think it's important for young girls and women to read these books and watch these movies to see what it was like, because it's not that far back of generations, especially for my age group, and to see what it was like, because there's a reason your grandmother has 10 to 12 children. And there's a reason you were popping out babies like popcorn because that was all that you were there for. Your husband is out here being a sharecropper for the white man. He came home, you were there to cook and clean and make children. That was your role. And if you were lucky enough to get a job, it was, maybe being what were they called? Because my granny was one. It wasn't a nurse. It was something else. What is that word?
Mid,
Not a midwife.
No.
I can't remember what the word is.
Wet nurse. Wet nurse is, I think, a nursing. No,
It's a nursing thing, but not that either. A lolly something. I can't think what the heck it's called. Candy I don't know. I can't think of what the heck the word is called. But anyway, but yeah. Or you were cleaning up after white people like to help. I know both my grannies did that. So these stories are important to tell and still be told. Now, does it leave a false impression? I got to get me an older man. Not necessarily. I mean, my husband is 4 years older than me. That's not a big age gap. But now when you getting somebody 10, 12 years older, you got to think, now, why does he want me? I'm 22 and this man is 47. Like, why do you want me? Like, what is going on in his mind? Why does he want a little young PYT, as Michael Jackson put it, So, but it is important to tell these stories, just so they have it in mind. Like, what can you bring to the table? And B, why do you want someone so young? Because we're not in those times anymore. There was a reason why women had to get older men back then, but now we're in 2024, honey. Like, why are you 50 searching for a 25-year-old? Make it make sense. So, Serge.
Yeah, that makes sense. I will have distinctly less to say about this, of course, because part of this is how, it's, I'm trying to think. What I was going to start with was this is kind of a dark joke we made with the repeal of Roe v. Wade, was that the government and society's ultimate goal is to have women die in childbirth in order to give birth to a male who will get drafted and go off to die in war. That's what the ruling class wants for the poorer people, when they are getting more and more poorer people, the Black, brown, Hispanic people, and so on. A lot of us were selectively bred. And that's sometimes what they want, is a young woman who's in her prime baby years with, the goods, and this older guy that's supposed to be able to take care of this baby. But now, we're getting towards more equal rights. I'm not going to say we have equal rights because there's still so much work to be done. And that this is many ways on how these has gotten more taboo and more obsolete for this, 45-year-old guy to begin with this, 18, 19-year-old girl. Ultimately, I think that I'm trying to think what was more of the question. What was distinctly the question, Renard? Because I'm trying to stick on topic a little bit too.
Well, it was about the color purple. Like, is a marriage like that should it be exploited and accepted in our life right now in 2024, or should we not show stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, if the dude's gonna act anything like Danny Glover did in that movie, it's like, come on, man. That made me hate. I love Danny Glover, man. It's just like, I'm too old for this shit. I'm like, yeah, you are too old for that shit in Color Purple. Get out of here, man. So, I mean, I focused on, a little bit of kind of the kiss that the what's the name, Salai and Shug kind of had. That this is more, I don't know if they could fully go there. It's the Spielberg film from '85. Because I didn't read the book, and I know you're much more inspired by Alice Walker than I am. So, was that in the book, or was that Steven Spielberg doing that?
No.
You mean Steely and Shug?
Yeah, those are the two. Yeah.
Okay, because you jacked her name all the way up. I'm like, who the hell is Salai? Like, what?
Yes, I did. Yes. Well, here's the thing: they started kissing, and then my mother was like, "Go in the other room. That ain't right."
Oh.
so yeah, and I was a little too young to see that, I guess. But at the same time, I'm glad I did, because, it was teaching me more about different kinds of love and different kinds, and I don't remember if there was even an age gap between those two either. I mean, at that point in time either. So, Color Purple, that Spielberg film specifically gets a lot of scrutiny because Spielberg's done some amazing things, but a lot of people in retrospect of the 85 film of Color Purple was not one of them. So they came out with the remake of it like last year, I think, and it was much more well received. So,
both, especially the 85 film, you don't know how much that means to the Black people. Like, that is a rite of passage, especially with Black women. Like, if you don't see that shit by the time you're like 9 years old, you might as well get out. Like, I even had a friend who took a women's studies class, and he was looking around like, why do all the Black people know the words? Like, because we was raised on this. What you mean? So, yeah.
It's gonna rain on your head.
Oh,
Thank
man.
you, right? So, yes. So, yes.
Oh, man. But yeah, I mean, that we're talking, about this a little bit. So, I don't know. At that point in time, other than just saying, yeah, it's archaic, but unfortunately, some people still go there with these huge age discrepancies. Some of my clients were telling me, no, my staff, when I used to manage a little bit, were that in Gen Zers, there's a record number of males that are dating older women, like in their 30s, and they'd be like in their 20s. Like we're talking like early 20s. I had a kid that was not kid. He was 22. He was dating a woman that was almost my age, and it was just like she was wanting babies and this and that. And I was just kind of curious. I'm like, why does that happen? And I've been looking at it a little bit closer now. I have an ex that's dating somebody that's like 10 years younger than her now. I'm like, did that beat my time? Yeah, that was my friend Lewis. I was like, how does that beat my time? I'm like, okay, fine. I mean, I could see him wanting to have some fun. How Stella got her groove back. That's another rite of passage one. It came back in the 90s. I made that reference at work. They're like, who's Stella? What is this groove? I'm like, you don't know that one? Oh, man. What are they teaching you kids?
Sad. Just sad.
When an older woman dates a younger man, it's always kind of like, that's a fling, like, all right, like Lisa Bonet divorced Jason Momoa, let's put it that way. It was a pretty gap in there, So like, but then it's like a dude wise, well, older guys trying to marry the younger woman instead of just, do whatever. So, I mean, it's interesting, is this something that's a population kind of thing where, I don't know, more older women have waited longer to have kids and have babies. And then once they get to, I don't know, a certain age, they're kind of like, well, a lot of these guys are married, or either they start, dating their student or whatever, like on that documentary. So, as somebody who stayed single well into their 30s, I can say is that the dating pool gets smaller. And as somebody, I've never had any kids, never had any divorces, and I do okay financially. It does get tougher to find somebody who has just those three things that I said right now. So, I mean, divorce is fine. Everybody gets divorced nowadays. But writing about romance isn't my big forte, though. That was Nancy Sleem always challenged me to write more about romance because I suck at writing it. Monique, you edited a story for me called Blood Purple one time that was about like people bleeding from every orifice, but the blood is purple. And there's whenever they start courting some people and, because they start getting sick with this kind of archaic biblical kind of like taboo. It's in the SS anthology that I wrote. And Monique, you're like, oh, all these scriptures. I was like, yeah, there's a lot of scriptures that go with that. I remember that story pretty well. I had some coworkers read it. They ended up liking it. And I was confused by my own short story. I published it, but I was just like, all right. Yeah, it's super biblical. Sure.
I remember you wrote something that I remember a love scene you wrote, and I was like, this sounds like a man wrote it. Rewrite it because this is terrible. So,
water. Yeah. Yep, I changed it. So it was like when you describe a girl that has breasts like basketballs. There's like that's
it. I was like, what?
Only a man would describe it. That's just tacky and just gross. I'm like, okay, fine. I took it.
All right, I got a good question here. I got another question. I'm gonna ask you this. So there's this big thing about women. They said men can't write sex scenes.
Y'all can't.
Okay, give me a reason why. We can write everything else, but we can't write sex scenes.
There's one author I think who can. There's two: Eric Jerome Dickey and Carl Weber. They can write the hell out of some sex scenes. Like, I don't know what it is. May Eric Jerome Dickey rest in peace. But most of y'all don't know what y'all talking about. Y'all don't know what y'all talking about.
I just I
Well,
don't write.
we're not virgins over here. We mean we don't know what
Well,
we're
well,
talking about.
okay, I'm gonna put it out there. The elephant in the room is, well, some man can write sex scenes because some man can fuck. No, it's just, I don't know.
I'm not
It's just,
saying you can't. I'm saying
like if you can't even write it, well, I don't know what you're doing in your personal life or whatever. But I don't know. Having to learn, especially when you're a younger male, that it's about build with intimacy in order to get
that
to.
part.
Yeah, that
That
part.
part.
Yes, and that for most of us of the male species, that takes time because a lot of times when you're between the ages of 18 and maybe 30, it's just wham bam, thank you, ma'am, and it's like, yep, a man wrote that. It's like a basketball,
Hmm.
score, and that's it, you know.
And let me give you some advice when writing love scenes.
Okay.
Use water as any example for when you're talking about lovemaking. Anytime you use water, for example, like it trickled, it flowed, it ebbed, just anything
Well,
like that.
Yeah,
Yes, sounds way more sexy.
yes. We went to the
Anytime,
water park with the children, and man,
nothing, no, no, it glistened, it glided, it slid,
yeah,
anything to do with water. It
yes.
sounds so much more sexy.
All right,
okay,
smooth.
Monique, please give me an example of that that's written. If you got something, a book, it don't have to be yours. That I want to know. I guess I read Fifty Shades of Grey,
So did
Hmm.
I.
and
I have all 3. Hmm.
Yeah.
I
all
admit
right,
it.
read me a passage from that. I do not own the copyright for obviously 50 Shades of Grey, but I mean, because I don't know how. I guess I don't know how to write a sex scene. I was just reading, but
I don't have them on my shelf, unfortunately, but let's see if I can give you something off the dome. Hold up,
Off the dome. See if it can.
off
really,
top, off
Oh.
you
top.
can remember.
If it's memorable
Uh,
enough, I mean, you know. Well, that's why we used to say filing it away. My friend Lewis, he'll know what that is. It's the thing when men like see some like, ooh, that's really hot. I'm gonna file that away so I can remember it later for fun reasons. So
Okay,
filing it away,
wow.
just that happens. I don't know if women do that either, though. It's just like, the way he walked, I'm gonna file that away. So
hold up. Let me see.
Well,
Um,
while she's looking for that, so the sex scene, I feel like, so you saying emotions, water, is
build
there,
up,
build, yes,
build up, because we don't just. Okay, y'all know what foreplay is, right? Dear God, like, come
yeah.
on, you
Those
don't just
four things
put
you
it in
do
the
in order to
oven.
play. Yes.
You don't just put it in the oven before the oven is ready. Like, I mean, geez, you got to warm it up.
Make me
So,
hungry.
like, that's pretty much what we want. Like, you can build a 5-minute scene just around holding someone's hand or gliding up someone's shoulder
Yeah,
or just the nape of her neck, like anything. That's all we
yeah,
are looking for before you start going to Pound Town. That's
yeah.
it.
Now, I do remember a sections of a scene that you'd written. We were at your writers group in Hermitage, where it was like the girl in your scene was cooking. It was frying up some stuff up, and the oil was kind of getting, in a little bit everywhere. And the dude comes home, and it was like she did the little dance to get the panties down and everything. I was like, I remember bits and pieces of that, not the whole smooth thing, but it was in beta reading form. And I don't remember which one it was. I just remember, like, we're not supposed to be talking about you writing erotica because, people will be listening to your stuff like, but, I said I was going to out you as Chuck Tingle. So Google Chuck Tingle. Anybody listening, you will not be
Oh,
disappointed.
freaking hell. You are. You good. You good. Hold up. Let me see if I can actually
interesting,
find that one. Hold on. Hold
interesting.
up. Yeah,
So
that
you,
one, my character was cooking and her partner comes up behind her and he's like, pull your panties down. And so she does a little dance to get them around her ankle
Yeah.
and kicks them to the side. or whatever, and he takes her from behind, and God, Mama, forgive me. Um,
I mean, how do we all have children? I mean, what? Maybe it was just wham bam, but just like people ask me, like, your parents are Mexican and Puerto Rican. Yeah, well, they got along 3 times for a few seconds each time, and that's how we exist. Yeah.
but like I said, my mama has read Preyed Upon, and she said it's just filthy, it's dirty.
It's dirty.
I was
Yes.
like, no, it's
That's
not. But like,
I remember you told me about that, like when old timers, when you were growing up, Monique, is just like, you ain't running around here like messing with them things, ain't you? And I was like, what? What does that mean? See, I'm from the Chicagoland area. I've never heard about these things before. And then I went to work the next day, like at like St. Thomas Midtown Hospital in Nashville. And then my coworker was just like, she running around sucking them things. I was like, they do talk like that.
So I'm not the only one who talks like that?
No,
like,
and that's what I texted it to you. I was just like, they're talking about sucking them things. And I'm just like, wow. I was a whole new world of Southern sex and just all this other stuff just kind of got into me. I was just trying to memorize my Bible and do my good Lord's work at St. Thomas Midtown Hospital and go home. But, it happened.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Oh, man.
Okay. All right. Hold up. Let me see. Here we go. My computer, of course,
before we ever finish, though, I do want to give some shout outs to other authors here or there. I made a short list, and then I just want to rattle them off, like the last thing we do. All right. So also some more potential people to be on your podcast. So they'll hear their name on there. Hopefully they'll be like, hey, we want to be based on characters on there. So,
all right. So,
who did you give a shout out to?
Nobody yet. I made a little list. Just some people. It's going to be, you'll know all of them. Let's put it that way. They're all still active too. They're all still very active from what I can see. So,
they do any of them do poetry or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I got poets. I got novelists. I've got historian nonfiction writers. I got quite a few. Well, Monique, if you're still looking at that, I could just do it now real quick. If you're good, I can give my.
I got it.
Okay,
I got it.
All right, read it.
Not suitable for work. Not suitable for work. If you are, so turn off right now. Okay.
Yeah, go to the bathroom, smile while you're reading this, looking at your phone on the toilet, going, "Ooh, that's hot." But
this is the thing Serge was talking about. The burning smell of onions bring me back, and it is me who breaks the kiss this time. Oh, wait. I pull away and try to wiggle out of his arms. Let me turn off the stove. He places me on my back as I rush to my aroma-filled kitchen and quickly switch off the stove. I move the skillet to the rear eye and cover the top with foil. Before I get a chance to turn back to him, his arms are around my waist and his face is buried in my neck. I lean back into his touch, into his mouth. I feel his erection against my backside, and I grind against him. At an agonizingly slow pace, he pulls my shorts down to expose my bare ass. He smacks my right cheek. The sting feels so good, and I wince. I'm gonna just stop there.
She went where?
Where?
Went to a sporting event? Yes.
I said, and I wince. So.
Winced. Oh, it winced. Oh, okay. Is she ill in some kind of a way? I've never heard of something. I was like, of course, you never heard of that.
I can see that. I can see that happening. It wasn't wham bam. It was more. Yeah, it was the emotions in that.
But, I told you.
Okay. I don't know. I never wrote a scene like that. I don't think I ever will try to.
Yeah.
I think I will just do a quick edit and then just go to the next thing and just let them know, okay, they did have sex, because I don't think I've tapped into my emotional sense to write a sex scene that I feel appropriate with. So I can see how men can sit there and say, they can have all the sex in the world, but then sitting there saying, how can I really put that down on paper?
Yeah.
Well, then in the next sentence, he's like, look at you, and he pulls his pants down, but it says his erection bounces free. But you can't just say, I pull my penis out. You got to make it action like my erection bounces free. You got to do stuff like that.
You got to be like, I slung my wiener out and it smacked that person across the room. But
yes.
Oh
So
gotcha.
you got to be more creative with it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
y'all just like to get right to it. I pulled it out and slammed it in, So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's true. And it's Silverwater, I remember that was the big sex scene that happens in the fifth page of that book, because I wanted to put sex up front because I was trying to prove that I could write something more just kind of here's violence and sex real quick, because Silverwater is more of a commercial thing. It's not so ivory tower, snooty literary with me. And I remember on the fifth page, it was kind of quick because my character was trying to become this better guy, but he was very toxic. He was a very transgressive fiction kind of hero, anti-hero. And the girl in there, Sam, named Samantha, who's based off a real person. Hopefully she doesn't listen to this. She will. Yeah, she'll remember who she is. But yeah, this is real embarrassing now.
I remember who it is.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, I was writing that scene while I was in a writer's group with just her, and I was getting distracted, and I was just like, focus. What do I need to write about? You know what? I'll write her in there. She has no clue. It's just like, hey, it's not illegal, whatever. So then, what happened was that you mentioned that Monique. She's like, oh, she's one of them girls that's trying to save this guy who's all dark and broody. I was
Mhm.
like, exactly, because their relationship is not healthy. That's the point of it in the beginning. And so it kind of happens. She kind of pounds on his door. Please let me in. He's all right, fine. I'll take you in here and give you what you want. And then it was like immediately afterwards, he doesn't even cuddle or nothing. He goes off to the couch. He sleeps, has a nightmare, and then wakes up and still can't sleep. And then you're
Yeah.
like, how messed up is this guy that he just
Yeah.
died? He just knock out or something. I was like, that's the point, is that he's not a healthy person. She's a very codependent person too. And their relationship, that's the basis of it. And it's not pro any of that. And I remember I've had people read it. They're like, well, this is toxic. This is all just male garbage. I'm like, well, you've got to have your people have ugly flaws, and the more flawed, the better in the beginning, especially in transgressive fiction. I'm a very big fan of Chuck Palahniuk and Fight Club and all that stuff, but I don't want to be Chuck Palahniuk. I don't want my writing to be it. I want it to be better. And that's why I reached out, and you all reached out too, in order to make it better. And I'll be happy to say that after Silverwater was done, I wrote better sex scenes from now on. They've been better. I'm not saying they're good as far as erotic or anything like 50 Shades or anything, but they are less from the male's perspective. It basically, like, the less hot I find it, the better it usually is. So, but yeah, I mean, thank you at that point in time, because I really wasn't coming across too many authors that were going to be that brutally honest with me. And a good chunk of authors do like you, Renard. They just kind of like, well, they went into the room, they smiled at each other, he undid his tie, and then ... next chapter. Next morning, they're making breakfast. And I would do that too at first too, because I did not even know how to write them, or I didn't even try. And I would say, no, don't never not try. And that includes not just scenes to write scenes of sex, but also violence too. Anything that'll make you and your audience uncomfortable, do everything you can to try to make it have these layers of meaning in it, no matter what. There's a reason why pornography is pornography, because it's just the plumber comes in, the girl's just sitting there, oh, my husband is away, and then that's it. And that's why it's comical, but it's not literary. There are literary sex scenes. Oppenheimer just tried to have one. I don't think it
I
succeeded, but
still need to see that.
yeah, it's very good. But also, Barbie didn't need to have a sex scene in order to have women empowerment. So
Don't
yeah,
tell me. I haven't seen Barbie. I have
I,
to watch
I own both of these movies. You can see them now. Yeah. I saw them at the movie that did the Barbenheimer thing last year. We saw them at the movie theater on back-to-back nights that weekend. And they're like Wizard of Oz and Citizen Kane, seeing those two back to back. There's an old saying in Hollywood, every director is trying to make the next Citizen Kane or the next Wizard of Oz. And they're both masterpieces, complete masterpieces in completely different ways. And, that's based on characters, because your characters are what matter. You kind of try to stay writing genres too much, you're going to get stuck in these lousy cliches. But if you focus on your characters, that's what matters. And hopefully
You think
we also
Citizen Kane was a masterpiece?
which was
Okay.
Citizen
You
Kane.
think Citizen Kane was a masterpiece?
Yeah, because it's scarily still relevant, and
Okay.
it's fairly historical, and it leaves you. Herman Mankiewicz, who wrote the screenplay, wrote it as a middle finger to, I think, Carnegie Rockefeller. This is almost 100-year-old film where he's
Yeah.
William Randolph Hearst and the media and the way that these big corporations take over things. And it's shocking, because I resaw it again 2 years ago, and I'm like, holy crap, we're still living this 100 years later. there's no good reason that the Citizen Kane should still be relevant. It should be archaic. It should be, antiquated, draconian. It should be just like, this crap was happening 100 years ago. I'm glad things are better now. They're not. So my
Good old
grandmother,
Orson Welles.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
I would love to have his voice. I love his voice so much. But yeah, so Renard, you got any more questions, or are we just going to be like talking about weird sex the whole time?
I mean, I'm a little traumatized a little bit by the sex, so I have to really think about that, and I'll pray about that when we get into that. Because I didn't think about the graphic details that is required to be able to make the sex scene stand out. But Monique just came in there and told me it's not straight in; it's you ease in like water, and you got to flow, got to keep it flowing, keep people's attention. So I get where she's going there. But I do have another question for you too, and I want you all to answer this the best way you can because it's not just about sex, but it's about banned books. I always want to ask this question. We will ban a book, but we will have these detailed pornography or soft porn films out there. So I want to know from you all's perspective why did we decide to ban certain books but not some of these films?
We didn't ban anything.
Yeah.
Florida banned a lot of books. Like The Color Purple is a banned book. Beloved by Toni Morrison, my favorite author in the entire world, like favorite Black literary author, is banned. Black Boy Joy is banned. I'm like, why? Just all of these beautiful Black children's books is banned, and I'm like, what did we do to you? I want to scream. Like, why? What did we do? I don't understand. What is that book?
Yeah. What's that?
Moss.
Moss?
That's a banned book.
That was the one that was being talked and being, I think it was Knox County, Tennessee. It was talking about banning that, and a few other counties tried to follow suit. It's about post-traumatic stress disorder from the Holocaust for the 80s.
Wow.
I taught this book here in Arizona last year, and I'm very proud that I taught that book because it's being discussed in certain parts of the country to be banned, and some private schools can ban it because they're private, And I'm just like, how the hell do you learn about the brutality of genocide? And the worst thing it has no nudity, it has violence, but the thing is that they're all mice. So it's done in a very simple comic way. So when you see dead bodies, they're dead mice or whatever, So it definitely wouldn't give that to elementary kids, but maybe like 8th grade to like 12th grade. And there's a good reason people need to learn about the Holocaust and the Nazis and so on, because no, it wasn't just a political party, that happened to do some bad things historically. It is an ideology of totalitarianism that still lives on, Charlottesville, things like that. And I've literally had writers try to over-explain to me about how, you're taking this out of context. I was like, no, there is neo-Nazis and there is the ideology of this, and we're talking about banned books. That's all they ever did was burn stuff. Anything that disagreed with their Nazi ideology, something that Hitler didn't even fit himself. He wasn't no Aryan prince looking dude or anything. He was even part Jewish, according to what you're reading. So that's just, I think, when it starts to ban literature, because it's low-hanging fruit. They start to ban what can get us stirred up and thinking, what gets pissed off, what makes very privileged people uncomfortable. And that in order to keep the people at bay and keep them in bliss is to have them not engage with these ideologies that counter this. Think Fahrenheit 451, Ray Bradbury, they had to memorize their books because all books got burned in Fahrenheit 451. And they went around, and I always remember Professor Faber when they ask him at the end, when they go out to, spoiler alerts, cover your ears if you don't want it. They escape the totalitarian regime, and they all memorized specific books, and they're going to find other people who have escaped also in this wasteland of whatever's left of the world. They ask Professor Faber, they're going to ask, what are you doing wandering around here? And they're going to say, we are remembering. We're remembering. And that's the most powerful thing, is to try to scrub history of the struggle. And we're not trying to, we're not consciously trying to piss off white people. Existing means that we do it by existing. It happens, so we ain't got to try to do it. So, but no, they don't even, a lot of people in these kinds of, I would blame older boomers, before the 1960s, things were better and stuff. No. And it gets tough, but I'm glad I'm teaching Moss at the moment, because for all we know, it can get banned tomorrow federally. Who knows? But or I can get banned in my district. But yes, that erasure. Monique, you got an interesting anecdote about how when you refused to read Huck Finn when you were in grade school or like middle school, high school, something like that, right?
It was Huck Finn and To Kill a Mockingbird. I was like, I'm not reading this shit.
Yeah.
Not reading it. Like, no. And then they tried to make me watch Amistad. I'm like, no, I'm
No.
not watching this. And then it wasn't until later I watched Amistad on my own. And I can watch it by myself and be taught by my dad about slavery. I'm not being taught by a white woman who doesn't know anything about Black history, and you want to tell me to read freaking To Kill a Mockingbird and you don't know. And God, I'm the only Black person in the class and we're saying the N-word freely and everybody looking at me like, you know how uncomfortable that is? Freely saying the N-word. And it was like, N-word, Jim. Like, why are you looking at me? Like, I'm not reading this. Like, get the F out my face. Like, no, I'm not reading this. No.
Yeah.
Refused. I was like, no, you can do whatever. I'm not reading this.
Yeah. But Monique, you didn't go around trying to get the book banned from your school or school district and go around having a campaign, with signatures and everything trying to get this. See, that's when people take anything and everything too far, when it's just, I choose not to do this, so nobody can. It just,
Right.
I would say about To Kill a Mockingbird, I think that Richard Wright's Native Son is the way more challenging book, but they give To Kill a Mockingbird.
Love that book.
Yeah, because it's yes, Bigger. I think that's his name in there.
Bigger.
Yeah, Bigger. Yeah, it's Bigger. He is guilty, but at the same time, he gets this harsher penalty. In To Kill a Mockingbird, I think his name was Jim. He was 100% innocent. It's like, this man can't beat up no woman and rape no woman. He doesn't even have the hand to do it, because it's very simple. Then they still find him guilty because
of course,
it's very black and white. Like now,
literally.
Yeah,
and figuratively.
Literally, figuratively, yes. But if Harper Lee wrote, it so that Jim was 100% guilty in the book, and they still found him guilty, or they found him innocent or whatever, which is impossible back then, how would it be received? But Richard Wright's Native Son is one I think that needs to be read at the high school level now instead of To Kill a Mockingbird. It's like To Kill a Mockingbird was in response to something like, Uncle Tom's Cabin.
That's a book that needs to be in high school. Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
The thing is that it gets a little bit of the Sambo kind of, and this is my friend Lewis is always talking about, like, he's just like, well, they Uncle Tom, and then where this comes is as a slur, too. So it's like, I'm sorry, my sister texted me for a second. But it had its flack in some ways because it was like harping on the slave narrative a lot and a lot of the Jim Crow era, and that the recent movie, what was it, American Fiction with Jeffrey Wright, talks about that, where Hollywood and the big publishers focus way too much on, you either got to be thugging and bugging gangbangers, you got to play a slave, you got to be in the Jim Crow era. And then it harps on those time periods a lot in American history. And this is good. It's better than Erasure, but at the same time, it's so much more than just that. We're not the sum of our collective historic trauma of our people. Hispanics, we have this a lot too with, they just focus on Aztecs, and then it jumps all the way straight to maybe about Frida Kahlo. We just skip hundreds of years of us existing somehow on this continent. It's either Cortez, killing people and looking for El Dorado or whatever. And then somehow we just kind of disappear. They have one question about the Mexican-American War that they were teaching in the schools that I've been teaching at. One question. Like, there was some serious scalp hunting around there that was going around. I just read Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. I had an ugly Facebook post about it because it sensationalized a lot of that historic violence. And it didn't focus on much of the good that we had been doing, we're doing, and still doing. Because you could do that and focus on the garbage that happened too. But Harriet Beecher Stowe's How come do you think it needs to be brought back in some ways and contextualized as opposed to, say, not Huck Finn and so on? What's your take on how we would bring Uncle Tom's Cabin back? Like,
Uncle Tom's Cabin. I would say that it does need to be taught because a lot of people don't know that it was actually written by a white woman. um,
okay, I didn't know either. I just learned something too.
Harriet Beecher Stowe. You didn't know that?
No, I haven't read it in like years. Harriet Beecher Stowe. Beecher. Okay, yeah. I don't think I've ever actually had to look her up other than just reading about her. Okay, yeah. You're totally right. All right. I learned something again. Thanks.
Yeah, and I think people need to know that Uncle Tom is actually not a bad word. We have turned it into a bad word. Sambo is the bad word. Like that's the one
I see.
who's always telling on people. Sambo, like he was dancing for the white man. That's the one. Uncle Tom was the gentler slave. The one keeping people out of trouble and everything. So I do think people would need to read Uncle Tom's Cabin before they get to Uncle Tom's Children, which was written by Richard Wright, who is a prolific African American literature writer. So, but yes, those are powerful books that do need to be taught. And just like your face exploded, it's like, wait, you're by a white woman? Yes, it was written by a white woman, yes, which is what caused start up the Civil War. It's like, wait, what, what's she doing writing about inward being free and blah, 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 so yeah, it's a part of history that needs to be taught. All of these books do, all of them. But no, they want to focus on A Time to Kill a Mockingbird and Huck Finn and all this other bull crap. And it's like, why do we? And I'm for. That's another banned book, actually. I was going to say Of Mice and Men. I'm fine with Of Mice and Men.
Okay,
but
gotcha.
That's a banned book, actually. They put that on the list. I'm like, why? That ain't hurt nobody. So
yeah, interesting. Going back to our first topic of discussion, because Of Mice and Men, Lenny has the intellectual disability. It's considered a bit hammy by contemporary standards because it's like Lenny's, so nice and gentle, but at the same time, he's still portrayed as dangerous. And
well, obviously, yeah.
He's framed
but it's
to be
so unfair what happened to me.
It is. And I still have it on my shelf and everything too. It just it's meant to inspire a lot of pity of him. And if you look back at the Great Depression, there weren't going to be much options for a person like Lenny and George to go around. But at the same time, it was like look at Helen Keller. That was in the I think about 1890. That was predated Of Mice and Men, because Of Mice and Men was a Depression era one. So you could have still done it that way, and considering it's a fiction book too, they still could have portrayed him a little bit, more as a full character instead of a caricature. And there's for example, like the movie Rain Man, which is based off the real Kim Peek. He was an autistic savant. That created a big stereotype whenever somebody works with somebody or knows somebody with autism. Well, what's their special skills? Can they count really good and this and that? Man, a good chunk of my clients that have autism, my students, they don't have all that. They're not all these brilliant, highly ingenious people. They have a lot of some severe problems with the communication, socializing, even some, intellectual behavior issues. It's a very, very small percent of people with autism they're like Rain Man like that, and, we got to watch what we put out there when it comes to, portraying people of any demographic, especially if we're not part of it. But even when we are part of it, we're still going to get flack about it. I was told many times that I don't write enough about Hispanic people. And I'm like, well, for starters, I'm just like, I write about people with disabilities more than anything because I love my sister more than anything. Mm-hmm. And that means that, well, then I'm supposed to choose between disability studies writing and people, Hispanic people and so on. And I'm just like, well, who writes these rubrics in the sky somewhere? But I do think it's still very important to be very cognizant of what we're putting out there and how it's going to be portrayed. Roachkind, for example, is a big allegory for people with disabilities. And then I get looks like, you're comparing them to cockroaches? No, because everybody's a cockroach. Remember that. And they're like, well, what are you saying about disabilities? Why don't you actually read it and find out? So, I'm very, I'm split on it in some ways, but I'm here to learn. I mean, I keep learning. I've learned several different things here in the podcast, that's for sure. So.
That's okay. I've been told by my husband that my characters sound white, and I'm like, listen, I grew up my entire life being told I sound like a white girl, and that is fine. I don't care. I did not grow up uh slanging rocks, doing none of that shit. So slinging rocks, in the hood, all that stuff. I didn't grow up like that. I grew up in the suburbs, bruh. So that's all I know. But if I wanted to write and be in the hood, I can do some research. I got plenty of people I know that I can hit up, be like, okay, what does this mean? So that's what that mean. Okay, so what does harem mean? What's that street for? Okay, now what does coke mean? That's white girl. Okay, cool. I can easily do some research and write about characters. I know how they talk. So if I wanted to go that venture, I could totally do it. But I just always grew up talking like this. So, but if I wanted to be like Jeffrey Wright and write like American fiction, I could totally do that shit. So,
Like, what was that book? We Lives in the Ghetto. It's like, oh man. Even if you just saw the trailer for American Fiction, that's in the trailer. That one. I'll try not to spoil that one because it's still a fairly new movie. But I do appreciate the shout out to the end of Malcolm X. That was kind of like, oh man, I knew they were gonna go there. So the out of context, I don't know if you all might get it, but
I've seen it. It's a great movie. I love it. So
I saw it for the second time because it's on streaming now. I saw it at the theater last year, and I saw it again now on streaming. So yeah, from a writer standpoint, especially when you're just a not white writer, it spoke to a lot of us. I remember I texted you the day I saw it. I'm just like, oh man, this is. And I think you had just seen it like earlier that day, and
I had,
yeah. And I saw it later that night. It was amazing. So it won Best Screenplay too. Oppenheimer took down all the Oscars, but American Fiction still won that screenplay, as if the Oscars are the end all. Because I remember Amistad was an Oscar movie too, and it lost to Titanic. I think Orlando Jones once said he's just like, what? He's just like, you want to see people die, on a sinking ship. Go see Titanic. You see Amistad, if you want to see people like, nah, we ain't going. So I don't know, but
all right. Let me go here. We gotta go to the last segment here. This is something I do.
Yeah, because my husband just got home and I'm ready to go love on him and give him a hug. So
no, it's all good. I understand.
Read what you wrote, huh? You're like, oh,
fix your eyeballs, Serge. So
like, this is why you don't write good sex scenes, not just because you're a guy. I'm like, oh man. So.
Serge, here's some advice. Write what you know. How about that?
This is true. I mean, I write about people with disabilities, but I'm not going there like this documentary of like, oh
no, don't do that. No,
like that. Like, hey, straddle this wheelchair, baby.
Oh,
no, maybe it's something I can explore later in my career.
There you go.
Yeah, which is maybe not necessarily because I'd have to address the sex thing too. So yeah, I never thought I could actually write a romantic sexual relationship with two characters. Where at least one of them has a disability of some type. I wouldn't know which kind or anything, but
I don't mean right like as far as disabilities and sex go. I mean as far as sex scenes, write what you know, you idiot. So
okay. Well, I mean, that's the point of fiction is nothing should be off limits, at least not in theory. When we put it out there, they'll always be prepared for the responses, though. So
you about to put Christina in a damn wheelchair? What the fuck is going over there?
Wheelchair, but here's the thing: if one of us got into a wheelchair, if one of you and Charles got in a wheelchair, like how would that work in your relationship? You see, and then how would you write about it? Renard, same question for you, same question for everybody out there. Till death do you part, not till some accident or some disability or dementia. Imagine like older people, just like, well, we both got dementia. We hardly remember what we did. So it's just like, yeah, let's do it again, baby. Like, we just did it. 5 minutes. Holy crap. You know,
All
we're
right.
going to hell with gasoline drawers, but it's okay.
Yes.
This done turned. This done took a left turn and a right and two more lefts. But
Yeah. Okay,
that's why I
Renard.
brought you on. All right, so we getting ready to wrap here, but this is something I've done new here. This is your opportunity to ask me one question here, and then after that, I want y'all to give your shout outs and what you want to say to your fans, the people you follow, the people who follow you. So,
Oh, so you too.
oh God, but
We
no,
need
I
to
want
ask
you to.
Ray a question.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Like, Ray, why are you always late? Even though I'm the one who was late today. So yeah.
Well, if that's your question, I can definitely answer that. You know, there was a scene in a book or I think it was out here actually in a movie. They asked a question, "Why are you late?" And the guy
He on black people
says,
time. No, I'm just playing.
"Well, we got the color people." Okay, when
Oh my God, they're using derogatory words. You're gonna offend the white people that are
I
listening.
said black
Tell
people time. He said colored people time. So
them.
actually, I'm going to save that. I'm not going to answer that one. I'm going to save that for next time. Okay.
oh dang.
Oh, there's gonna be a
Oh,
next
you
time.
want me to answer that? I'll answer it.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll answer it.
Oh, I thought there's
You
a
know,
next time. I thought we were banned now. It's like, yeah, don't
we're
ban
gonna,
books,
I'm gonna
ban people, authors. They're like messing around. So,
Nobody's banned. How many interviews that Vlad and all these people had with these murderers, serial killers,
Are
Puffy?
we that
Well, he's one
awful?
person now. All them people want. Everybody want to talk about P Diddy now. He's never gonna be banned. Everybody want to listen to it.
yeah,
It's vice versa. The more dirt you do, people want to talk about it. So,
yeah.
but yeah, being late, it says, you should be asking, why are you asking me this question? Because here's the thing.
Yeah.
If I'm late, that means I'm busy enough to be able to be late
Sure.
and I can answer that. But if you're always early, your life may not be as interesting or as
Oh,
busy as it should be.
It's true.
I heard that from a author or someone. I was like, I'll answer that. It's an excuse, but hey,
Yeah.
that's
no, it's not an excuse. I like that. Hell, that's a
No,
snapback. I like
yeah,
that.
I like it too.
It's a
Yeah,
good
because
clapback. It's a good
yeah, I got
clapback.
you. Although the other
no,
clapback, I think, would be like,
no.
well, I have a strict itinerary that we have scheduled these things there, so that's why I come exactly 5 minutes early to everything. I don't. I am not that nearly organized, but I do like to honor my my presence at that point in time. If I say I'm going to be somewhere, I will attempt to be just 5 minutes early. I'm not super punctual, but I just try to be for five. Chances are I'll just be on time or 5 minutes late. I'm one of those. So the day I start showing up 15 to 30 minutes early to stuff is the day where I need a bigger life. I need a more interesting life. I really do.
Actually, a pimp told me that.
A pimp. Oh man, an editor translation, because editors pimp out writers. Yeah, I actually got told that by a writer. Editors are pimps and writers are whores. So what we need as writers, we need to get ourselves a good
Oh,
editor/pimp. I'm like, so thank you, Monique.
oh,
Wait,
wow.
both? What the?
You know, if you're your own editor and your own writer, then you are your own pimp and your own whore. Isn't that the American dream? To just
Well,
control where everything goes, right?
I'm in
Oh.
control of my own stuff. I like it. So yes,
There we
I
go.
like it.
I'm
All
I'm
right.
sorry. I'm sorry, YouTube. If I don't want to get flagged. I'm just gonna put as much parental advisory as I can on this post. Okay, go ahead,
Just
Monique.
bleep out the words. That's all you gotta do. So, um,
And we've
Really?
okay.
actually
So
surprisingly good.
my question for Ray is, when is your next project coming out?
Oh God. Oh my God. I knew you were gonna say that. Well, I have let 4 or 5 different people read my short story project, which is called Armor. It's based off of 4. Now they told me I need to write a 5th story. It's basically 4 short stories that have segments of my life. One of them is titled Armor, and it's about a police stop that I had where I was basically mistaken identity for another black man that looks nothing like me. I got the news article. That probably might be the front cover, and they wanted to charge me for armed robbery. So that's part of that situation there. Um, then I got one called Heaven the Hustle, which has been going through several different rewrites. It was about a young lady that's definitely very appealing to the eyes. No sex scene in it, but she gets involved in a life that about hustling. Women are probably the better hustlers in some cases, and she has to do certain things to get out of it. And that's somebody I know and I used to talk to.
Yeah.
So I call it Heaven because there's a character in there named Heaven, which is the main character, and then there's also a character in there named Angel. Angel is far from being an angel. Let me just say that. And Heaven is far from being heavenly. So that's part of the short story there. Then I got a couple more. One of them is about paranoia at work. And it's about me actually feeling paranoid. One time I had a concussion, I was in college, and I felt paranoid around people when I was in class and things were going on. But what I did was I changed the setting and put me into, or the character into a work situation. So he starts imagining certain things that were going on at work. So those are the top three. The other one, I'm going to hold back on there. I might talk about it a little later, but it has also another. Actually, I'm not. It was about.
Yeah, good.
It's not okay. So it's about a shooting that happened at a club that I saw, and I still know to this day. I can still see the person's face, but it's about me being intoxicated going into a club, but then having fun. Then you come out, and then a situation happens. But in this particular thing, the club got shut down, but the testimony that the person got on the TV was wrong. I knew the truth.
Wow.
I
You
think
need
they
to
knew the truth too.
finish these.
They're
You
done. It's just, I, you know, you know, I'm concerned a little bit, not about my story, but the shooting story. What if somebody reads this and says, "This person knows what happened to my that happened to my daughter and the guys you will, or vice versa. What happened to my son and
hmm
all that? Why? Like because I think I don't know. It's a little troubling, and I'm trying to really write it right. That's what's making it hard because it was at a time I was intoxicated. I don't I don't know if you can put a intoxication a person that's intoxicated on the stand. At the time, I was 22 years old at the time, but I can see it, and I'm really trying to figure out why the girl lied, and I
What
feel
if you
like
just
she
wrote it just for you? You don't do anything with it, just to get it out.
I could change everything. The shooting happened in 2002, I think. So maybe I could. I was afraid that someone goes back and it's like this cold case. But the guy got arrested for it.
Yeah.
hmm
But I I don't he if you read it, you'll understand why I said that, because the person did something. I'm not gonna say that, but there was another party that was involved in it. I saw both when I got out the car. Saw, and I just wondered, what really happened.
hmm
Why did this happen at this time? I mean, it was 10 degrees outside, and it was cold, and people were drunk, and there was a lot going on. But there was something else that led up to it in my things because I was there the week before too. So
I got
yeah,
you.
It's heavy.
that story is a struggle. I didn't put that out. It's just that I don't know. I don't
I
want to be brought into something like that.
think
Right.
it's
Right.
an old idea, but it still works. Think the Japanese movie Rashomon. It's almost 100 years old, which inspired the Star Wars movie The Last Jedi, which also inspired Roachkind because I have a scene in there that's Rashomon like. and where they just tell it from the same story from 3 or 4 different perspectives, and then you get a good idea and go out of your way to exaggerate each one, and you let the reader decide. That was I almost got a short story published that was initially Roach Kind, that was told from my perspective, my sister Lulu's perspective. It was a point in time where she had really did a violent act against one of my other family members, and it was a real story, and I had to actually deal with it and fix it somehow, or at least get out of there. So I had it from my perspective, and my perspective was nothing but just, I was this glorious hero that just handled it smooth. Yeah, right. I was 12 and I was crying and I was upset and so on. The other one was told from my sister's perspective, and she can't even talk, but I still tried to be like, hey, I really don't know why I'm here. I'm hot. I'm angry. I'm feeling anxious, and she's trying to grab my arm. No, yeah, So, and 3, I did it from my other sister, my other family member's perspective, is the one who got the violent act put on her, trying to think from her perspective. I talked to her a little bit too. And then the final perspective was just what really happened. And it was 4 sentences. And that's it, because that's about how much that it had in common with the Venn diagram. It's a bit of narrative framing gymnastics sometimes, but I think it could be help in order to get as much closure as we can from it. And the biggest thing about getting over trauma in some ways is understanding it from the perpetrator's standpoint, and also the people who enabled it, also the people who turned a blind eye to it, the people who, even blatantly lied about it. Understanding it from all their perspectives as best we can sometimes is the most mature thing we can. And I do think that's why a good chunk of people don't like that Last Jedi movie, because, well, they don't want to look at Luke Skywalker and the Jedi as bad people. But I'm like, dude, they're humans, they're aliens, whatever. Just, try to get a little more mature with this, and that it's okay if the Jedi thought about doing something terrible and killing somebody and breaking the Jedi code, that we have to be understanding of these things happen. And even if we're still hurting from it, we have lived to tell the tale, and that's always a good thing. And that's what all of us have in common as creative people, is that, if we were more mathematical, business, maybe people, numeric people, we'd be working in science more, or something, where we're doing direct results of, this is how we implement this new technology for your cell phone. And with better cell phones, you can call 911 better. So yeah, that makes the world a better place. We're writers, though, musicians also out there, painters. It's not like, oh my God, I'm in a crisis. Let me look at this painting on my phone. Huh. Yeah, it could happen, but we need all of that, and they are equivalent. And one of my big beefs or pet peeves sometimes is when we cut from the arts, when they ban books, they burn books, when people diminish the arts as something that is entertaining or even just intellectually educating, to the point where, we feel smarter and better people now. We're not like those people in that book or in that movie. But guess what? We could easily be, if we hadn't had somebody looking out for us. Just one person, sometimes all it takes, or even just one scenario, or even if we didn't have nobody and all we had was a library card, because I know I was poor growing up, and that's all I had was to escape in books, escape in reading, writing, comic books, cartoons, video games. And that taught me about the world, because my parents couldn't. They didn't have those kind of communication skills in art, in numbers, nothing. They were just, they're kind of how you would expect from poor Hispanic people, just kind of trying to make their way. They did the best what they could with what they had. And but I'd recommend the Rashomon effect, Renard.
Okay.
Even if you don't publish it, like Monique's saying, it'll help get some perspective on how to frame it better. And I think it'd be surprising on how much it'll be even more, dare I say, mildly entertaining. It's weird sometimes, like, wow, I just didn't think that would be that interesting if I framed it from 4 or 5 different perspectives. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm gonna tell you something here, but pay attention to my next video. It'll just be me on this particular channel. I'm gonna give you the other thing that I'm afraid of, and I never told anything about it. Anybody about it, even my wife don't know about this. And I told myself one day I'm gonna actually talk about another part why I'm afraid of it that happened last year about this particular story. So just definitely stay tuned to that. I will drop that video probably after we drop this one here with the with the edits and the details of this particular video for you all, this interview.
I
But
got
I
you.
want to say, I want to say definitely thank you. I missed the writer group. That's one thing I missed. Uh, being in person, being in front of all you all, and talking those stories out. And that's another reason why I like to have, doing this particular interview style, because I get a chance to meet y'all again from a distance. Now we don't have to be huddled up in some what was he at?
Hermitage
Law office
Library.
one time.
Yes.
Library, yeah.
Mhm.
So
Getting kicked out of the rooms because that old lady that ran the place was just it's just a troll, man. It's like I hope she's watching this. Oh yeah.
right. Well, I want you all to give your shout outs here, and this is that time to give you shout outs and tell me about what you got going on next before we wrap.
All right.
Go ahead, Serge.
Oh, you want to go ahead? Okay. All right. Let's see. Obviously, thank you for having Silence Wordsmith and Ashley Roth on here. I'll shout them out again. They're both a phenomenal poet and a great writer. Ashley Roth, also another person who's beta read and edited a lot of my short stories. So thank you. It's like Transable a lot. And Silence Wordsmith took over for Christine Hall, of course, with Writer's Wart. Check out Renard's podcast with those two. So I'll go, of course, with naturally Monique and good old Ron. So Ron, we're waiting for your book. I won't say anything about it, but get it out there, Ron. Monique, yo, give him a shout out too. Put him on the spot. The Grand Marquis and DJ Show 55. I just conducted that interview. So yes, I get interviewed and I conduct interviews for the INTA Media Forever Group. Me, Monique, and the Grand Marquis, also known as Frederick Hayes, his government name. Sorry. But we did the Omari Boyd, the untold story of Omari Boyd, the 8th ranked kickboxer in the world. He is the cousin of what is her name? Boyd, the one your boss. Oh yes. But anyway, Monique works for RH Boyd Publishing. So yes, that is the same Boyd family of the kickboxer that we did the documentary for, which is not released yet, but it will be because it's about 90% done. We just got to get the last little bit of footage. So let's see. Now some creators that have inspired me. My Uncle Jerry over here in Arizona is one of the big reasons I moved here. Check him out on SoundCloud with Manzana Pie. Yes, he's one of the few relatives that I have that is just as brilliant and creative as me, and also my cousin Naomi, who did some of my covers. Christina Carter, my significant other, who also did my covers and is in the final stages of drafting her book right now, The Unmaker. So she'll listen to this and she'll be like, why'd you say it out there? Because it's going to be released. Now I put you on the spot. So because I edited that book already too now, and I'm going to edit it again. Let's see. My good old friend Zerubbabel S. Lewis, my best friend of 25 years. He's finished with his book too. He needs to get it out of here because he needs to get it published because I've edited that for about 10 years now. Very good. I would say think Tyler Perry, but with more gorgeous people because all his dudes are just muscle shaman more people, and all his women are stacked, just Francine Mason. I've been editing his book for a long time. He needs to get it the hell out there and released because I'm like, dude, you can get that Tyler Perry money, man. But he's got more of a Spike Lee seriousness to him too. It's the best way I can frame it in some ways, but he does do his own thing. And it's good to know that when my best friend actually is a good writer too. And I don't plug people that I don't think that they're good writers. I'm sorry, So, and my good friend Anna, Miss Anna, she's a singer over here in Arizona. I won't say that much about her because she'll be like, well, why are you putting me all out there like that? Because I don't know if she wants to get her singing out there like that. But she is a very good inspiration on me. We were both in special education together. Congratulations on your new job. And let's see, some people to potentially have. Renard, get out of here. Oh man.
Keep going. Just keep going.
Gotcha.
It's still recording.
He'll come back. All right, let's see. For the future of Renard's podcast, on characters, try Christine Hall, of course, the former head of Poetry at the Brew, which is now Writer's Wart. Done a lot of great things. She has a lot of great personal anecdotes. Very floaty, like, oh my god, these things are awesome. I was like, man, I wish I was that happy about life sometimes. I miss you, Christine. So he's coming back. Here's a good one. Angela Sutton. She wrote a book called Pirates of the Slave Trade. She is a Vanderbilt PhD in history, and I have never met a white woman that knows and understands and appreciates the struggle of Black and brown people around the world that much. And I was like, you ain't got to have a PhD and go to Vanderbilt to be on that wavelength, but she's done a lot of great things, her and her significant other and so on. Pirates of the Slave Trade, that's a very good historic book about pirates in the Caribbean. If you ever watch Our Flag Means Death, Blackbeard, Stede Bonnet, they were totally gay. So, and pirates, they ain't just white people. There were a ton of different kinds of people from all over. That's what made the high seas so, diverse in many ways. Very good book, Pirates of the Slave Trade. So I would say try her and Christine Hall if you're interested, if they're interested to get on Renard's podcast
Okay.
coming up. Thank my few fans, my sister Adrienne, of course, my oldest sister. Good old Andy. He's a horticulturalist and does a little writing sometimes himself. My good friend Gus, may your brother get well. He's just got in a bad accident. Gus is the one that I first got drunk when we were 22 and we talked about Rutsch Kind, and I just threw it out there. Whew, he did not think I was serious about that. I wasn't that drunk during there, but I am a year and 9 months sober at the moment, so thank you. And my friend Sammy and Cheyenne from LabCorp. I don't think they're fans of my book in particular, but those two make me appreciate what fandom is still like. Because it gets tough sometimes when you've been writing for so long and you're creating, and it gets a little like, I can do that, or maybe it's just me and I'm just really full of myself, which I am. So when I get frustrated when I see a movie or read a book, I'm like, this is trash, man. I know I've done better than this. But it's helpful to know when people don't do, they don't do a whole lot of creating themselves, but they're still very appreciative fans of things. And that includes anybody from my sister Adrienne and Andy and Gus. They're very big fans of things, and they help keep me grounded. And this is what it was like, Sergio, because we all, before we started writing and making music and creating, we were all fans. Always remember that and never forget it, because when we start forgetting the fans and the responses that we can get, I know we've joked about a lot of dark, weird things, a lot of things we're probably going to hell with gasoline drawers on, but we've not forgotten what it's like to be fans and to respond, to be the audience. So it's fine. You can come at me, fans, if you got offended by anything in here. YouTube, if you flag it, go on ahead, cancel me. I'm good with that. I've been banned from like 5 different writers organizations in Nashville. That. Monique, yeah. I have not been banned from anything here in Arizona. So
Okay.
that's the thing. You got to have a voice, and you got to be okay with putting it out there. And if people are like, well, we're very tolerant here, and then they're like, well, this is problematic, I'm like, really? Ooh, talk a big diversity game until we start getting into some controversial stuff. So I think that's about it for shout outs. Ren Ellis, she's a good author. She's a Y18 author, taught me a lot about how to write for younger people. Monique, I think you know her too. So also Alan Lewis and Nikki Nelson Hicks, they are Chuck Tingle collectively. They were my fairy literary godparents. So Nikki Nelson Hicks and Alan Lewis, those are two also really good ones. If you're interested in those two, I could send you some links to their work. They write some erotic stuff too, steampunk, noir, stuff like that. But yeah, when I first got to Nashville, I met those two and Monique and a few other people, and the rest was history. So that's my shout outs for now. So thank you.
All right.
He gave a laundry list. Okay, I'm gonna be short. Just shout out to my husband, Charles Brown, who just got back. He's been gone a few days. So Serge, of course, and Ray. Y'all have been rocking with me since I moved here, and my boo Ron Harris. Love him. Call him Ron. It's like my little brother. And just my fans, of course, if I have any. I don't know how many I have, but anybody who's read my books, thank you, truly, from the bottom of my heart. My mama, who does read my work and watered that seed when I said I wanted to be a writer. She did not discourage me. And my number one fan, he is gone, but he's still in my heart. It's my daddy. So that's it. And you can find all of my work again on www.author-moniquegooch.com. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Google Roach Kind and check out Renard's podcast, his previous ones. Me and Monique have our individual ones. So
Absolutely. And this is based off characters. And shout out to all the people who inspired me to do this particular podcast. Y'all know who they are. Shout out to all my fans that I don't know, because hopefully I get new fans, new followers. That's what I want them. Any future interviews, you want to interview me, definitely hit me up on Based on Characters. and I'll reply back to all messages as long as they're appropriate.
Oh
Shout
no.
out to you got to, because somebody might, they say some little slick stuff on YouTube. They feel they got, these YouTube gangsters here. We got, and we got a lot of that stuff going on. But and then also shout out to you all for coming on here, having this three-way interview. I think that's the best way. Trio interview. Trio.
I'm gonna Google that. I don't know what those words mean. Dictionary. Oh my God, Renard, how could you say that? We're good.
All right. So again, I appreciate everybody for following me, hitting the like button. Please share. Please subscribe to this channel, and I'll be dropping an exclusive interview, basically interviewing myself about my upcoming work, some of the things I kept private. I'm gonna make a little public here in the future. Definitely pay attention to all my past interviews that I have. They're all uploaded online, and then all my future interviews I got set up. Again, thank you all, and I appreciate y'all, and I will be back very, very soon with some more interview content. Peace, everybody.
All right.